delay Medicare past 65? In a lot of cases, people think this is a very silly question because people assume that you must join Medicare at 65. But that's not the case, and in many cases, you should not join Medicare at 65 in order to get other tax benefits. So in this video, I want to talk about, should you delay Medicare past 65? When does it make sense to delay Medicare past 65? And how to do so without penalties. I'm Emily with the Medicare Coach, an independent consultant helping our clients easily navigate both the government rules of Medicare as well as the insurance company options to help you do what's right and best for you to have that best healthcare while also protecting your retirement savings. I'm going to share some extra resources down below to help you get some more inside tips when it comes to Medicare. But let's go ahead and hop into this video. Should you delay Medicare past 65? Now, you've probably seen another video of mine where I go into this in more detail, but Medicare rules say by the time you're 65, you must either be on Medicare or be on an employer health insurance plan that meets Medicare rules. And for that reason, if you do have an employer plan that one, meets Medicare rules, and two, is cheaper than Medicare, you should delay Medicare past 65. So let's go into these rules in a bit more detail because there are a few more things that to take into consideration. So again, rule number one, do you have an employer plan that meets Medicare rules? Okay. Again, your employer health insurance can be either through your employer or a spouse's employer. And it must meet three main rules. One, it has to provide you coverage with no requirements of Medicare Part A or B. Number two, it must have 20 employees or more. And number three, it must have a creditable prescription drug coverage. So if you've met that first criteria, you can technically delay all parts of Medicare with no penalty. Now, I recommend you go one more step. The next step though is, okay, it's great that my employer plan meets Medicare rules, but is my employer plan cheaper than Medicare? In most cases, the tipping point is if you're paying more than $250 per month per person on an employer plan, right? If you're paying $250 or more, you should look to see what Medicare costs you. In most cases, Medicare will be cheaper than that. There's one other kind of cost line though as well, which is what is your out-of-pocket cost on your employer plan? So if your premium is over $250 a month, and if your out-of-pocket cost is over $2,000 a year, it's worthwhile to look at your Medicare costs. Now, this tipping point can fluctuate based on where you live, your income, things like that. That's kind of the main tipping point that I look at to say, are you better off on Medicare or are you better off on your employer plan? So let's say that you have an employer plan that has over 100 employees and you pay nothing for your coverage and your max out of pocket is $500. In that case, you're almost always better off staying on your employer plan. But if on your employer plan you're paying, say, $500 a month, and your out-of-pocket is $1,000 or $2,000 a year, you might be better off on Medicare. You probably are better off on Medicare unless you have a high income. So again, we want it to meet the Medicare rules, but we also want it to be cheaper than Medicare. Now, factor number three, though, also is, do you have other family members on your employer plan, right? If you have other family members on your employer plan that meets Medicare rules, even if Medicare is cheaper, you might keep your employer health insurance in order to cover your dependents, right? Now, so again, we've gotten to the point. You can delay Medicare if your employer plan meets Medicare rules. Great. Okay. You should delay Medicare if your employer plan is cheaper than Medicare. The final one, though, is, are you putting money into a health savings account? This is unique because people will ask me, but Emily, can I just join Medicare Part A and nothing else? And I say, that is definitely an option to just join Medicare Part A if your employer plan meets those Medicare rules. But if you're putting money into a health savings account, the government rules say you can put money into an HSA, into a health savings account, up to the ladder of 65 or 6 months before you apply for Medicare. So let's say that John's going to work until he's 70, and if he loves his HSA, if he delays Medicare Part A, he can put money into an HSA account up to, say, 69 and a half. But if he applies for Medicare Part A at 65, those HSA benefits end at 65. So in most cases, being on Medicare Part A only is not a huge issue unless you have an HSA account. So to kind of wrap up this video, there is a way to delay Medicare past 65 without any penalties. But one, you need to have your employer plan meet the Medicare rules is the main criteria. And number two, if you're putting money into an HSA, you should ask yourself, do you still want to join Medicare Part A, or do you prefer your HSA benefits? Again, this is getting more and more common of delaying Medicare past 65, and so be thoughtful. Now, there's a separate process that's required in order to delay Medicare. In order to join Medicare after 65, I cover that in more videos, but it's very common. I had a client who was 84 years old who just joined Medicare for the first time as he just retired from a bank. So it's possible if you do the right steps, but again, being on both Medicare and paying for both a Medicare and an employer plan is usually a total waste of money, so it's best to pick one path or the other. All right, here's helping you easily make your right Medicare decision, and make sure you like this comment for more inside tips when it comes to Medicare.